So performance was good. 2 wins in 2. We're into the 3rd round, which means that we can put the calculators away for now. But ultimately, performance against Liberia, good. Albeit against Liberia, but good performance.
Yeah, obviously.
Because the pitch was really heavy.
Yeah, like the saying goes, you have to play who's in front of you. So I think it doesn't really matter that it was Liberia. And we talked about this, the fact that the Super Eagles, didn't have a win about 6 games before that game. So there was a bit of pressure, and then it was in Lagos. Win something, give the fans something to chew on. And if you saw the scenes...
And Lagos fans are fickle.
If you saw the scenes after the game, right? Even though it was just 5,000 people that were allowed into the stadium, the scenes after the game, you can understand if the game had gone the other way around, how maybe the fans would have reacted. So it was an important win for a lot of reasons. But for me, it was the first time the first time to see some of the boys play live. So it was really interesting. Right. Big fan of Joe Aribo. I was so happy, saw him. It was really good.
If Nigeria doesn't qualify for the World Cup, Gernot Rohr gets fired, right?
Has to be.
Definitely.
Has to be. Has to be.
Because someone would think, okay, allow him to go to the Nations Cup and do what, please?
Do what?
If you do not qualify Nigeria, in fact, that Nations Cup that you are going, if you do not get to the final, you should be fired.
No, but because I think you've been there.
Because I've held brief for Rohr for a very long time.
Without getting paid. That's the one.
I'm not getting paid. I think he's a great guy. I think he's done well. He's stabilized us.
That's the word.
Yeah, he stabilized us. But are we at the point where we should be talking stability? We're at the point where we should be. When I see Algeria play against a team on the African continent, I see class. I see Senegal, class.
But that's patience. That's development. It took Algeria a while. Do you know how long it took Algeria?
Gernot Rohr has had 4 years. What?
Wait.
So how long has he been here for?
Look at Algeria since 1990, before the last time they won the Nations Cup. They built on that. Gernot Rohr, for me, the word stability is very key. But also, he actually has put something together, a team. We have a team. And if you go around African countries in general, countries constantly chop and change managers. Look at South Africa. They've gone through managers. Look at Cameroon. Look at Burkina Faso and the likes. All these guys have either won the Nations Cup or got to the finals. And once they chop and change managers. But somehow, some way, the Super Eagles have that consistency now, and we have a manager that has used the same team and brought in a number of key boys, and you can see that they're young, and of course the experience is there with the Kenneth Omoros and Ahmed Musa.
This young, I agree.
So it takes time.
I agree.
I think this is the Nations Cup.
Sentiments.
I've placed the bet in it. I placed the bet with my friend. You might know him, Rutimi. I told him, Nigeria, this Super Eagles is going to win the next Nations Cup.
Okay.
50K.
Do you?
And I put it on it because I've seen the growth of the
I think we were good enough to win the last Nations Cup.
Yeah,
the manager let us down.
I think inexperience cost us that, and that was
inexperience on the part of
some of the players. For me, the goalkeeper was the cause of our problem in that particular game.
I thought it was the manager.
I mean, you don't form your wall that way. That goal, come on,
valid points. I agree.
That was
for the free
that was the last game.
I agree.
That was the last game he played for Nigeria.
It's funny because
competitive game.
It's funny you bring this up because myself and Olakule, director, will be speaking about creating a more tactically hands-on show, and that would be great when that happens because we can do a full.
Yeah, I think we need
the Nations Cup.
Yeah, you need to do that.
Not just tables, and I tell you what, everyone on this table knows the game to an incredible angle, so incredible degree rather. Right. So let's get away from international football, at least from the African continent, and let's speak about the Premier League. But in doing that, we'll also have to touch on the news that broke yesterday about 8 players, who potentially would not play for Premier League clubs. I think Ederson in goal for Man City, Fred for United, Alisson in goal for Liverpool, Firmino. And the Brazilian FA have basically reached out to FIFA and said, look, you have to invoke the legislature, Sean, that says we can call on you to say these players would not play for their clubs. As a result, those players have been said, they're not going to play. Richarlison is an exemption because, Everton, according to the reports, have a great relationship with the Brazilian FA. The last FIFA Olympics, Olympics basically.
Which they won,
which is great.
Richarlison scored 5 goals.
Yeah, I want to speak about that because, last episode, I think 2 episodes ago, we spoke about, the UK's red list zones and how this could adversely affect the global game. I think it's the right thing to do. However, when it comes from a country like Brazil, there is a bit of undue hypocrisy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the word.
Right? But what it does ultimately, at least in the short term, is that the FAs are not powerless. I brought up this story because it's important to refer back to African countries, realizing the role, the cards they can play.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of fans don't know that the FA can tell Leicester
that you can't play that game.
He's not going to play that game.
Yeah.
Right? Because the national team, for all intents and purposes, is a brand, maybe the most powerful brand, because it has the legitimacy of a country behind it. If for any reason you decide to use the national team as a, when you decide to use it when you want and for how you want it, that cannot be allowed to happen. Yeah. And I think for that reason alone, I understand why the Brazilian FA would do that. But however, if you say a player like Lo Celso and the other player can't come into
Brazil without having their
quarantine, but you now have a rule that says it exempts players that are Brazilian residents or players that have a Brazilian passport.
So
is that the virus? When the virus does it look at you and say, this one a Brazil guy, so make a leave for border.
It be like say their passports, they inject them to their bloodstream.
And, so make a leave for border. And guess what? England,
right?
I've got Brazil on their red list, and Brazil are saying, okay, we also have you on our red list.
That red.
So it looks like countries are. I think it started in Africa. Countries are weaponizing this thing. They're just using it as a tool.
You see,
because I don't understand. I mean, with the way you put it, I don't understand why your players can come into play against a very dangerous opponent, but you want to weaken the opponent because they've got their players coming in. It doesn't make any sense.
It's funny because the story, and I think both of you know the story, it was in NPFL. So I think it was Imba Nasarawa, right? If I'm not mistaken. So the Nasarawa knew that Imba had an ineligible player.
Yeah.
Right.
Was it Nasarawa or Niger Tornadoes?
Nasarawa.
They didn't tell Imba that they have an ineligible player.
What business do they have?
What business do I have? What business do I have telling you that?
Which is great. So they played the game, right? And after the game, Nasarawa said, "Hey, LFC, come on. This is just..."
They played
ineligible player. So, as a part of our strategy, we have now told you. Up to you now.
Yes, now. You now said they didn't play fair play.
LFC now said, he said that was not in fairness. The spirit of the game wasn't considered.
Why didn't you do your own due diligence then?
How? No, whoever, I don't know who did that, but whoever gave that judgment that Nasarawa should be tried, honestly, it should be prosecuted, because that is so disgraceful a judgment. And I said it that time, it was the most disgraceful thing I've ever heard in football.
Right.
And it's just sick when you hear.
So, so for me, it's the conversation about the Brazilian FA. Going back to, and I know when you started, you mentioned, coming back to African countries and their FAs understanding how much power they wield. So
don't tell these people.
Now I think
African FAs locally, they know.
It's when they want to talk about don't go to mushroom clubs.
No,
that's
what
I
say.
I won't sign your release. I won't sign your release form.
African.
This one that you don't know. Say
African Federation president. I'm not afraid to say are power drunk. You don't want to even show them any small power that they have.
So for me,
they're abusing.
I'm just of the opinion that I love to see it. I know there's a bit of hypocrisy, with what the Brazilian FA are doing, but I just love the fact that, because the reason club football is as big as it is in Europe is because of the money. So I just love the fact that the Brazilian FA can stand with the FA in England or with the Premier League and say, you're not going to play our players.
Yeah.
So at least let's know that if we're talking about power play, if we're talking about relevance, you have our players. These players are from Brazil, so we can tell you. So for me, I just love to see that, because remember we talked about the way the AFCON was moved around because of the pandemic too, just to satisfy the fact that Infantino wanted to bring a new Club World Cup, an extended Club World Cup. So it was more or less like CAF was just like a pawn or like a piece that Infantino could move around the way he wishes. So for me, I wish, people like CAF, African FAs, can see, the kind of power they have.
It's also important because, the basis of this conversation is, yes, one international break has finished, but there's another one in October and another one in November as well. And FIFA can now say, look, Premier League clubs that didn't allow players to travel, or rather, you leaned on the UK's government's, hard stance. You people now will allow you players to play now. We'll let them play in this particular game, this game week 4, and let them play in the Champions League as well. In return, that next international break, you will call us and tell them that we have put them on a flight and drop them in their countries.
The clubs are...
So it's about leverage.
The clubs are also being mischievous.
I think they're negotiating already now.
Yeah, the clubs are also being mischievous. Because remember, if there's an issue that benefits, for example, in England, if there's an issue that benefits just the English government, right? The clubs can run to FIFA and say, no interference from a third party. We're an independent body. You can't veto what we want to do. You can't tell us that this is what we must do. Yeah. But now, our players don't have to travel to Brazil. That's what the UK government said, though. We have to follow the rules of the UK government.
It's a lot of politics.
I think there's a lot of, over the next 5 years, or thereabouts, there will be a lot of structural changes, the organograph of how football is run. Because right now, from where I stand at least...
Is it organograph or organogram?
Organogram.
Which one?
Organogram.
He said organogram.
I actually said organogram.
He said organograph.
No, initially organogram.
No, you can run it back.
He corrected himself.
He said organogram.
You can run it back. I think from where I stand at least, FIFA have been exposed largely as to where their exclusive powers lie. I think the only thing FIFA can do right now is host the World Cup. Honestly.
And they want to do it every 2 years.
Hi there. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Please leave a subscribe on the channel, The Hindsight Podcast, and also on Instagram at The Hindsight Podcast. It's the same on Twitter as well. Leave a like, a retweet, or a comment. We'll see you soon.